Hi guys, welcome to part 15 of the Django social network project, and in this one let's do something different, something that I didn't plan, and some of you guys simply convinced me to do it. So we are going to bring in Ajax for the like button and counter. Right now, let's be honest, we don't have the best user experience. And what I mean by that, if we scroll down, for example, and find test post 2, currently it's liked, so let's unlike it. And what just happened over here? Well, the page got reloaded. We lost the track where we actually were, so we need to find our test post 2, and then we can take a look at the likes, and okay, yeah, we were able to actually unlike it. And then if we decide to like it again, the page got reloaded, we lost the track where we were, we need to find our post, take a look at the likes, okay, we were able to like this post. So let's have this working without having the page to be reloaded. Let's just simply click it, stay in the same place, take a look at the counter, take a look at the value over here. If we are going to change this thumbs up, thumbs down to like or unlike, and yeah, we can have in this way a much better user experience. And why didn't I want to implement Ajax in the first place? There are actually two reasons. The first one is that this is a Django course, so I wanted to give you as much as Django possible with limiting the JS to a minimum. So this is the first reason. The second reason is that I'm actually not a big Ajax fan. There are better ways to do stuff like that. And later, when we will create a Django REST framework with React.js tutorial, you will be able to see for yourself and simply agree or disagree with me that the solution with Django REST framework and React.js is much better. All right, guys, but enough talking. Let's get started. Let's implement this functionality and let's do it right away. Alright guys, so I'm at views.py file in the post application folder, and I'm going to scroll down in order to find the like unlike post view, and here at the end I'm going to add some data, and this is going to be a dictionary. And I just want to show you one thing which can be useful for you. So for example, I'm going to set a value over here, a key value, and assign to this key like value, okay? And also I'll do one for the counter, and let's call this likes, and this is going to be post obj. So we are referring to this post obj, okay? And we need to refer to the many-to-many field called liked, grab all the likes. So liked, as you can remember, is a many-to-many field to the profile. So we want to grab all the profiles. So grab all the likes and count them. And this can be our response from the server. So what we can do is to import a JSON response from Django HTTP. All right. And right now, over here, I can return JSON response, pass in the data, and set save is equal to false. Okay, so let's see what actually happens. I'm going to save this, hit refresh, and press like, and this is the response from the server. Later, when doing Ajax, we can actually use those values, those keys and values in the logic that we can write in Ajax. I'm not saying that we are going to do it in this particular video, but it's worth to know that this is the response from the server, and we can pass in something in order to later use it. So this is one thing that I want you to keep in mind, that this is how we are passing the response. And the other thing is that we need to remember about the logic. The logic remains the same. We are still expecting a post method to take place in order for this logic to be executed, and we are still expecting a post ID. So with the data, we will later need to send also the post ID. This is very, very important. So right now what we can do is to jump into our main HTML, because over here, well, we need to do some changes. First of all, I would like to maybe take a look at this particular form. We will need to add a class and ID. So for example, let's call this, let's give it a class called like form, not from, but form. And let's set the ID as obj ID. So we are in a loop. The loop is over here for obj and qs. So let's set this ID as obj ID. Basically, the form ID will be a representation of our post. We will be able to identify the post by the form, by this particular ID. Okay, so this is one thing that I wanted to change. The other thing is that I want to get rid of the button. We will have one button. We won't be using icons. Let's just simplify it and let's have a like unlike button. And then I'm going to grab this if statement and put it inside of this button. So we will have if profile not obj in obj liked all. In this case, we are going to display a like, and in other case, we are going to display unlike, and then we can put in over here and if. Okay, so this is another thing that we want to change. We can get rid of this class be white small. We will have an ordinary gray button, and let's also, instead of a span, let's have a div over here, and let's bring this likes outside. So let's save this and let's see how this is looking right now. Okay, so we have a gray button and yeah, 0 likes, but this isn't looking great, so maybe let's keep the gray button, but let's put this likes just next to the counter. Okay, so we can do it maybe with the use of semantic UI. So below the button, I'm going to create a div class equal to UI grid. I'm going to close it off. And then inside, I'm going to put in div class is equal to column and close it off. And then maybe I can simply copy this and put it over here. Okay, so in the first column, I'm going to put in this div with the counter. And in the second one, I'm going to simply put in the likes. So I can get rid of this. And let's see now how this is looking. And it's looking better. Maybe not perfect, but for now, it's okay. All right, so one more thing I would like to do is to put in some identifier for the button. So I'm just going to call it like btn, and also I'm going to pass in obj ID. Okay, we will use this later. We will need to know which button we clicked, with which button we are working, and also we can provide the same logic. So I'm just going to copy this and put it inside of this div over here. So this is going to be div class, and maybe instead of like button, let's put in like count. I think like count is appropriate. And yeah, hopefully this is it in terms of changes for this particular form. Nothing else should change. So we can actually scroll down, and here is the logic for our comments. So we don't want to interfere with that. Let's start maybe from here, and we can get our form. So we named it like form. We are getting it by the class. So let's put in like form and then submit. We will have a function with an event. And the first thing is that we can do is, okay, here I have a mistake. This should be like this. The first thing that we want to do is to put in prevent default, prevent default. This way we are preventing from refreshing the page. And then we can set a console log works. Okay, so I'm going to save this, hit refresh, then console, go to right click and inspect, and then I'm going to go to console, and we have works. Okay, so this is working. All right. Okay, so once we have this, we can actually delete it, and we can focus on our post ID, okay? Because the post ID we need to pass, and we said that we are going to identify the post by the form. So we can set a variable called const post ID. So this is going to be a constant, and we can refer to this. For now, I'm just going to put in this. So we can simply console log below post ID, and I'm going to refresh, and we have form 11, form 10, form 4. Okay, so if we go one step further and set the attribute, grab the attribute by ID, we will get an ID over here, but I put it in the wrong place. Sorry, it should be over here. Okay, now let's see what we will have. I'm going to refresh again. 11, 10, 4, 3, and so on. Okay, so this is our post ID. This is working, and we are getting this because we have this ID in our form. All right. Okay, so yeah, let's delete this console log. Hopefully this is understandable, and let's grab the like button text. Okay, we need to know if we are dealing with unlike or like, because if it's unlike, we want to later set the value to like, and if it's like, we would like to set it later to unlike. We will do some changes also on the front end. Okay, I will return to this a little bit later, but in order to have this working more efficiently, we will do some changes on the front end. And if we want to do changes on the front end without having the page to be reloaded, we need to know the value of a particular button, and we also need to have the current like count. So let's create a const called like text, and this is going to be, well, let's refer to our like button. So it should be over here. So I'm going to copy this, and paste it, but I'm going to use backticks over here, okay? So like button, and here we are going to inject our post ID. This is going to be our obj ID, this post ID, okay? So we can do it with a $ and curly brackets and put in post ID. All right, so now we will have the post ID, but we also want to have the text of it. So let's actually see what do we have over here if we console log it. Like text. Let's save it. Let's refresh and unlike, unlike. Okay, so this is working, but the problem is that we have a lot of white spaces. And in order to eliminate them, let's create another variable called const trim, and let's put in $ and use the trim method and pass in this like text. So here now we don't need to display the like text, we can put in simply trim. Going to save it, hit refresh, and as you can see, this looks much better. We eliminated the white spaces. Okay, so I'm going to delete this console log as well. We'll also need to have the URL. So the URL will be the action that is provided in our form. Here is the action, okay? So again, maybe I went too fast. Here is the action, okay? So let's create this variable called const URL, and this is going to be simply our, I'm going to put in this, and then the same as over here, but instead of having the attribute ID, we will have an action. So attr action, and we can simply console log the URL. Let's refresh, and there it is. Okay, so this is working as well, and now we can focus on the counter. So I'm going to create another variable called res as a result, and below the res variable I'm going to create a constant likes, and this is going to refer to our like count. Okay, so let's go up, and here is our like count, and let's put it over here. And again, let's use backticks, and let's inject the post ID. Post ID, and again we would like to have text, and let's console log the likes. So I'm going to save this, refresh, and we have 1, 0, 1, and so on. Okay, so this is working, however not entirely, because this is a string, and we will have problems with mathematical operations, even the simplest ones like over here. So if I save this right now, hit refresh, as you can see we have 11, 0, 1, 11. Okay, so this isn't the solution that we want to have, so let's create another const, and let's call it trim count, and this is going to be parse int. So we are converting a string into an int, and we need to simply pass in the likes, and then instead of likes we will have trim count console logged. So now I'm going to save this, and let's see if this will work. as you can see, everything is working correctly. Okay, so we can get rid of this console log as well. And I think this is a good time to work with Ajax. So first of all, let's put in $Ajax. And the first thing is the type. So as a reminder, we are dealing with a post request. Then we need to set the URL, and the URL is the one defined over here. So this is basically our action. And then we need to pass in the data. So as a reminder, we are expecting a post ID, and we can assign to the post ID our post ID from over here. And then at the top, let's add a CSRF middleware token, because if we scroll up here, no, not here, where is this form? Here is our CSRF token, and we also need to include it in the data. So let's put in CSRF middleware token. If you get a 403 forbidden, it's most likely because you made a spelling mistake over here. Okay. So in CSRF middleware token, let's put in, and here again, we need to focus in order to not make a mistake. Input, name, and then CSRF middleware token, and then at the end, value. So val, okay? And then comma. So if we didn't make any mistake, this should actually work, and this should lead us to a success. So here we define a function which takes in a response, and basically we are adding some logic. What happens if everything goes correctly, if the logic is executed, if we don't have any mistakes, and so on. So for now, I'm just going to put in console log success and then put in the response. Okay, and then I'm going to put in error, and here function response console log error and response. Okay, so let's actually test this out. I'm going to, this won't work quite yet. I'm going to explain this in just a second, but let's see what happens over here. I'm going to press unlike, and as you can see, we have success, and we have the response that I was talking about in the beginning of the video. We have the value, unlike, and likes 0. Okay, so let's refresh, and we have now this changed. Okay, so if I press like, we have unlike and likes 1. So we have the future values which are updated on the server but not updated on the front end. And now our task is to have this updated on the front end as well for particular posts, because if I refresh it, we have this logic over here. So you can say that we have this solution working, yeah, almost entirely, but there is still some lines of code to be written. So let's get rid of this console log success, and instead let's put in if, and then I'm going to write down trim is equal to unlike, and we will do some logic over here, and then else. This means basically that the trim from over here is equal to like, and then we will execute some logic over here as well. First of all, we need to grab the like button. So I'm just going to copy this and put it over here. Like button post text, okay? And here, if we are dealing with unlike, we want to change the text to be like. and over here we just need to have it as unlike. All right, so this is one thing. So now if I refresh, as you can see, this changes without the page being reloaded, but the counter stays the same. And this is why we need to work on this res over here. So let's do res, and then we need to refer to the trim count. And when it's unlike, we want to subtract one. And when it's actually like, we want to simply add one. Okay, so res trim count plus 1. We are incrementing 1 because we are hitting the like button, the text changes to unlike, and here we are hitting the unlike button, the text changes to like, and we are subtracting 1. And then the final thing is to refer to the like count. So I'm going to grab this part and pass in the response, the result, sorry, not the response, the result. So here we will change the result. If it goes this way, we have res over here, but if it goes this way, we have res over here as well. So we have two case scenarios, and whatever way it goes, we are updating our like count. So now if we save this, refresh, as you can see, everything is working without having the page to be reloaded. So obviously this is a much better user experience, and this wasn't a very difficult example. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. It was a little bit different. We didn't do basically anything related to Django, but yeah, in some cases Ajax might be very, very important. So hopefully you liked this video, and yeah, I wish you all a great day and see you soon. Take care and bye bye.